All right, YouTube. This Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. It's Friday morning, and the most trending topic of today is Trump being found guilty on all 34 counts in New York City. Now, it depends on what side of the aisle you on is going to determine how you feel about it. But we're going to have a discussion that most people aren't going to have with you. And the first thing, I want you to watch this video to the end because my comments was going crazy last night with how people felt about Trump being found guilty. And you have people who are celebrating and you have people who are outright angry. But before I get off into this video clip, I want to show you something. I've always asked my subscribers to buy this book. Buy this book. This book is on the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And why I wanted you to buy this book is I wanted you to understand how America became the republic that it is. Now, let me show you something. A few names in this book. We got John Hancock, Samuel Chase, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Samuel Adams, and John Adams, to name a few. There's more names on this list. But these men that I just named were all considered criminals. When they signed the Declaration of Independence, King George issued an edict that they were to be caught, brought back to Great Britain, and executed for just signing the Declaration of Independence. King George sent the British Army to the colonies, hunted them through America, looking to catch them, execute them, and dismember them in Great Britain for signing that declaration. And you say, why is that important? Because these men put their lives on the line, literally, to create a country that they governed and they ruled without tyranny and without taxation, without representation. So I advise you to read that book because a lot of people who are upset about the Trump situation is saying what's going to happen next. It's a lot of people that's fearful, and it's a lot of foolish people that are celebrating. How can you celebrate the demise of a man that is loved by so many other people publicly? You people getting in front of your cameras and you laughing and you joking about what happened with Trump. But there's someone in their basement or in their garage, angry, watching you and looking at you. See, the pundits that hated Trump, guess what they did today? They beefed up their security. They hired more security. That's what they did. But the general public that just has to go to work and go to grocery stores and go to churches, you can't afford to hire 24-hour security while you mock a man with the power and love that this man had. See, Biden, he's not going to come out now and celebrate because he knows what he has done is being perceived by so many people around the world as an act of tyranny. Now, as I said before, it depends on what side of the aisle you're on, how you feel about the case. But for one, in the Constitution, you have a Bill of Rights. And Trump was found guilty of all 34 counts with a witness who was a convicted perjurer, a person who had stole $30,000 from him, a person who said he hated him in a city that hated him where he was demonized. He wasn't allowed change of venue. See, a lot of y'all think that people are upset because of just Trump. There are people who are upset about the abuse of the United States Constitution and the republic of which it stands. See, a lot of people find this as an assault on their rights and the potential to be governed under tyranny, while a lot of you laugh and play. But see, you ones that laugh and play, y'all ain't gonna do nothing. Y'all just gonna talk. You're gonna talk for clicks, likes, and views. But deep down in your soul, you understand nothing about what it is when people call themselves patriots. You ever seen the movie A Few Good Men when the actor, I can't think of his name, he said a lot of you use words like loyalty, bravery, and honor as catchphrases when you have none of that. But there are people out here that have all those characteristics: loyalty, honor, bravery, and they're angry. But they're not the ones who whole agenda is transgendering your kids, LGBT rights, abortion. They don't like the things that you like. They don't value the things that you like. They value the rule of law. You understand what I'm saying? See, there's so many of you that went with the Democratic Party who says they're going to transgender your children, offer you abortion as policy. Everything that God says don't do, the Democrats have found a liberal way to allow you to do them in this so-called Christian nation. So if they will go against God and the Bible, why does it not surprise you that they will go against the Constitution and the rights of the people? If they wanted to beat Trump, they should have beat Trump in the courtroom. But they chose another method because they know that the people that they want so desperately to govern and exploit and tax are foolish. So I'm not going to continue with my commentary. I want you to see this clip by Alan Dershowitz, a renowned lawyer. And most of the people in Congress are lawyers, a room full of lawyers, and you know how we don't trust lawyers. But I want you to see how Alan Dershowitz explains what happened legally with Trump. And watch it to the end. It's not going to be gossipy and it's not going to have all the excitement that you used to, but it's going to tell you something about the law and something about what happened in that courtroom and what happened in New York. Now, also, before we get off into the clip, I want you to support Detroit's Black Thought and Action Collective, which is a nonprofit out of Detroit. You can find the Cash App in the description of the channel. Support the nonprofit, support the movement, because at this point in time, we have to put our thinking caps and we can't get emotional. So let's go on with the clip. This is for fair use under the 1976 Copyright Act for education and commentary. Let's listen to Alan Dershowitz.
You see, you've all heard that Trump has been convicted of all counts. You all know that I predicted that in my book, Get Trump. I predicted it days before the verdict. I predicted it when the verdict came down today, but before we knew what the result was. As soon as the jurors said that they needed time to check off the boxes, it was clear to me that that meant a conviction. This is a very sad day for American justice. I have now added one banana to my usual banana republic grouping. We're up to 7 or 8 at this point. And it's a worse day for America than it actually is for Donald Trump. Don't know what the impact will be on Trump. Don't know what it'll be on his electoral prospects.
I'm going to stop right there because he said something key. He said this was a worse day for the American people than it was for Trump. You know, they drug Trump through the mud and, they wanted to get him real bad. But they have divided the country along lines that we haven't seen in 200 years. And if you're a person who think this is funny and are rejoicing, you have not studied history. Because as I've said before, there are people around this country who are angry and they don't value the things you value. They don't value abortion. They don't value the LGBT community's agenda. They don't value immigration. They don't value the debauchery and the liberalism that the Democratic Party offers you. They value what they consider the Republic of the United States of America. And they consider what happened a direct assault, an attack on their way of life. And they're not the pundits. They're not the ones. I mean, I even seen Willie D. He was so excited to see a man fall. His hatred of somebody he don't even know because somebody else doesn't like them. It reeked of so much feminine energy. Because, my father used to tell me when I was young, he used to say, the same things that make you laugh will make you cry. So you got to look at things wisely and look at the ramifications of those actions. And this thing was serious. So let's finish with Dershowitz.
He's probably not going to get jail time. And if he does, it would be stayed pending appeal. I don't know whether the case will be reversed on appeal. Sir, I don't think it would be reversed by the appellate division. These are judges who are terrified of being perceived of as helping Trump in any way. Don't know whether or not the New York Court of Appeals in Albany will have the ability to not consider the impact it will have on individuals as judges. Surely the Supreme Court wouldn't, but that's a way off, and there wouldn't be a decision by the Supreme Court. Probably before the election. This is still the weakest case I've ever seen in 60 years. The fact that the jury convicted based on false instructions, wrong instructions, based on the jurors having been between 85 and 90% picked from a veneer that hates Trump and doesn't want him to be president. The fact that the jury convicted doesn't make this case any stronger or any better. I was recently, just 15 minutes ago, on with the Times of London, and they were saying, well, doesn't the fact that the jury convicted prove that it was a strong case? No, it proves that it was a case that was brought in a jurisdiction where a conviction was almost assuredly guaranteed. In the South, when they convicted black people improperly with an all-white jury, or acquitted white people improperly with an all-white jury, that didn't mean that those convictions were correct. It just meant that the jury didn't reflect the values of our country. It reflected the values of a particular region of the country. In this case, the region is a liberal region, New York. In the southern cases, the region was the conservative region of the South. But juries are imperfect, and juries represent the biases of individuals. We do live in the age of Trump syndrome, of people can't not talk rationally about Donald Trump any more than they can talk rationally about Israel or about some other subjects. Trump is the most divisive person we've had in politics since the Civil War. And it's not surprising that a jury would come back after, 10 hours or so of deliberation, guilty on all counts for crimes that, after 60 years of experience, as a criminal lawyer, I still don't understand. I don't understand how you can resurrect a statute of limitation barred misdemeanor and turn it into a viable felony because maybe Trump thought when somebody signed a bookkeeping entry from a menu that the appropriate listing was legal expenses rather than something that's not on the menu, reimbursement for a non-disclosure agreement. How you can then turn that into a felony by saying, but at the time that somebody else did it, he must have intended to commit another crime. This was a foreordained verdict, and I very much worry about what this is going to mean for America. It's going to incentivize local prosecutors in red states and red cities of red states to bring fake charges against Democrats, against people running for president, against their, in this case, his son maybe, and against people running for other office, senators, congressmen. This is the opening battle in a war of courts, a war in which will be fought not at ballot boxes as much as in jury boxes. And so it's an extraordinarily dangerous development for America. As I said, it's worse for America than it is perhaps for Donald Trump. This may help Donald Trump get elected. Nobody knows. There are certainly going to be people out there who are going to say, oh, my God, I wasn't going to vote for Trump. But the way he has been treated, the way the justice system has gotten him, dealt with him, get Trump, I'm going to have to vote, register a protest vote. There'll probably be some who have the opposite view. Oh, he's been convicted of a felony. Can we really vote for a convicted felon? No, I think this has an undetermined implication for Donald Trump, but a terrible implication for America. This was not a well-tried case by the defense. They, I think, waived lots of issues that they could have made more of. The examinations were not what I would expect in a first-rate case. Trump has had a lot of trouble getting good lawyers, and I think he had to settle in this case for somebody who was nice to him, but who was relatively inexperienced in cases of this kind. So this is the beginning of a very, very dangerous trail. Where it ends up, nobody knows. Will it result in more prosecutions of this kind? I don't know. Already we saw after Trump was impeached, the Republicans try to get even by impeaching Mayorkas, an unconstitutional impeachment, both of them unconstitutional, but two unconstitutional wrongs don't make a constitutional right. They just make two wrong.
I'm going to step in on what Dershowitz said. What does retaliation and the get back look like? Because I assume that if you're an intelligent person, that you do know that there will be consequences for this situation. There will be consequences, and I don't think nobody has processed the ramifications of celebrating this man's demise at the hands of his political opponents. What does the get back look like to you?
And the case here too will be dissected by legal scholars. If there are any legal scholars left who are sufficiently objective to be able to scrutinize this conviction honestly and neutrally. I have my doubts about that. But when the verdict came in, people cheered for either side. It was a little bit like the O.J. Simpson case. I remember that very vividly, where you had African Americans, not all, but many, cheering the verdict of acquittal, and many white people, not all, but many, bemoaning it. Here, you have a similar reaction, not necessarily along racial or ethnic lines, but along partisan political lines. You have Trump supporters who are outraged by the verdict, and you have Biden supporters who support it. And then you have me, a Biden supporter. I voted for him in the last election. Don't know who I'm going to vote for in this election, but I've never voted for Donald Trump. who was outraged by this verdict, was outraged by the charges, even if there had been an acquittal, had been outraged. The very fact that somebody is brought to trial on offenses of this kind diminishes our legal system considerably. And so a very sad day for America, a very sad day for our system of justice. We're not Stalin's Soviet Union. We're not Hitler's Nazi Germany. We're not Pinochet. We're not, but we're not China, and we're not Iraq, but we're close to some of the countries in South America where one dictator once said, "For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law." And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see now the beginning. We've already seen it a little, but this is the low point, the initial low point. It will get lower, but this is the low point where you have a man running for president of the United States and being charged with non-crimes and being convicted by 12 jurors who almost certainly don't want to see Trump be president. And of course, the judge said, "Oh, well, don't let personal views impact your decision." He didn't say don't let political views. He said don't let personal views. He didn't say anything about if you don't want him to be president. Even so, that wouldn't have a big impact on the jury. Juries decide what they're going to decide, and they decided this pretty quickly. There were some questions, to be sure. People wanted to go over the testimony, but the testimony that convicted him was testimony by Michael Cohen. And boy, would any of the jurors have bought a used car from Michael Cohen? I don't think so. But send a man to conviction and possible jail. I don't think he's going to jail, but a possible imprisonment based on the testimony of Michael Cohen. They were willing to do that because they wanted it to come out a certain way. The evidence in this case was such that if you want it to come out for an acquittal, you can find so many flaws and holes in the case that you can find reasonable doubt or an acquittal. If you want it to come out for a conviction, well, then you have to believe Michael Cohen. There's no way around believing Michael Cohen and getting a conviction. Only Michael Cohen testified as to what Donald Trump's mental state was and whether he knew that the bookkeeping entry would be legal or retainer expenses rather than reimbursement for a non-disclosure agreement. That's the only testimony. There's no corroboration of that. And the prosecutor misled the jury. There'll be a strong appeal. I'm sure that Trump will find himself a pretty good appellate lawyer. If he calls me, I'm not going to take the case, but I could recommend some very, very good appellate lawyers and who could do as good a job as possible on this case, a far better job than was done by the trial lawyers in this case. But that doesn't guarantee a reversal. What the percentage of convictions, criminal convictions that are appealed are reversed? Far fewer than 10%. In some jurisdictions, far fewer than 5%. In some jurisdictions, in the area of 1 or 2%. Obviously, when you're the presidential candidate, the odds change. They may get higher, they may get lower. But there is absolutely no guarantee there'll be a reversal of this conviction, although it should be reversed. Obviously, there are so many errors in this case, just to start with the most obvious one. Prosecutor argued to the jury that it is a fact, not the law, it is a fact, that paying of the hush money constituted an illegal campaign contribution. If it was a fact, then the judge had no authority to exclude an expert witness who would have testified to a different fact, who would have said, no, as a matter of fact, there was no crime committed here. The judge said, no, but it's not a question of fact, it's a question of law. And I'll decide that, but he allowed the prosecutor to say it's a question of fact. That in and of itself is a reversible error. There are so many other reversible errors in this case. That doesn't mean there'll be a reversal. This case is different. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that hard cases make bad law. Political cases also make bad law, and this is very much a political case. And so this being an improvised, a short response to a dramatic event that I've been talking about for a long time, I wanted to get it on the air so that people can respond. I'm not going to read any letters today. You can write me letters, however. And on the next show, whether it be tomorrow or next Monday, I will read your letters and get your reactions to what happened here.
I'm going to end there. So Alan Dershowitz, who wrote the book Get Trump, has basically gave you his illegal analyzation of what took place. And you've heard what I said about it in my commentary and in my opinion, in my objective perspective. So we're gonna stop there. You can put in the comments what it is that you think after hearing what you've heard. And again, support Detroit's Black Thought and Action Collective. The Cash App is in the description. Signing to you out of Detroit. Salute to all patriots. Don't get emotional. Keep your thinking caps on and keep your head on a swivel. Peace. Like, share, and subscribe.